going to tell you a little bit about the island of Mandø. Mandø is situated approximately 20 kilometers west of Ribe, which by the way is the oldest city in Denmark. When you get to the coastline, you will have a drive about 5 kilometers to reach the island. And the only way to get there is really to drive with a tractor, bus, or to take your car. The Wadden Sea is of great importance because it's one of the most valuable tidal areas in the world. It attracts between 10 to 12 million birds a year that uses the coastline as a stopover and a wintering area in northern Europe. Another interesting thing about the Wadden Sea is the population of spotted seals. The Wadden Sea provides great areas to the seal where they can rest, and you will see them when you come to Mandø and on the way across the water. When you reach the island of Mandø, you'll have to drive approximately 2 to 3 kilometers until you reach the tiny village, Mandø village. Here you will meet people living on the island, but there are not that many, around 34 people living right now here in 2014 on the island. But there are more people over there than 35 because, 34, because there are also summer houses there, not that many, around 12 that you can rent if you feel like it. So it's not a very large population, only 34 people stay there permanently through the year. Around 100,000 people visit the island of Mandø every year, and the big question is what you can do and what you can see when you get to the island. I think there are mainly 3 important things that I would like to emphasize here. First of all, it's the Wadden Sea. To get to know the Wadden Sea and to get to know the story of the Wadden Sea is interesting. The best way to experience the Wadden Sea is to go there with a guide that can tell you all about it, because if you drive to the island of Mandø on your own, you probably just stand there and ask yourself what to do. So you really need to go there with a guide. Another interesting thing to experience on the island of Mandø is actually the history of Mandø, because it's a very interesting history, and it's kind of a rough history as well. There have been many floods on the island, people have died, and one of the locals can take you around on the village of Mandø and let you know more about that. I also think that it's also interesting to go out to see the seals, and you can go by horse or horse wagon, and you can go by a tractor bus. The same bus that take you to the island can take you out further into the sea to have a look at the spotted seals. And that's a nice trip as well. As I mentioned before, approximately 100,000 people visit the island every year. We would like more people to stay, maybe just for one night, to experience the peacefulness of the island, because you have to remember this is an island in the middle of the sea. There are no cars, you won't have any lights in the night time when you sit at the coastline. So one of the most, maybe the most interesting thing at all is to experience the calmfulness and the mindfulness you can experience when you are visiting the island and when you stay over, at least for one night. We do have some issues concerning the island of Mandø. One of the things we like to do better is to give the guests that visit the island a more coherent experience when they visit the island, before they visit the island and when they are there and when they go back. One of the problems that we see is that we have actually 2 different companies providing the transportation service to the island, and that makes our guests sometimes confused which tractor bus to take, and we would also like to see a more flexible planning of the trips to the island. Another issue is the fact that the people working within the tourism industry on the island can only barely make it a business. And that's got something to do with the lack of people staying over. If more people could stay over, as I mentioned before, they could make a better business, they can earn some more money, and they could develop the island and their business even better. The third thing we would like you to help us with is the branding of the island Mandø. Today we tell stories about the island, and mostly we tell the story of the nature experience. But what we also need is more like a clean-cut brand that we can communicate. Another challenge we have to look at is the infrastructure on the island. We have to see how we can develop the island in a sustainable way. We need to look into the roads, to the signs, things like garbage handling, and we also need to make sure that we refurbish the houses in a way so that we can keep the visual identity that the island have today.
Yeah, my name is Paul Fredskild. I live here on Mandø, and I've been living here for about 18 years now. I came to Mandø because of my wife. My wife is born here on Mandø, and my wife's mom and dad is still living here on the island, and so is quite a few of her uncles. So we got a lot of family here on the island. We have 3 kids. Anne, she's 19, Line, she's 17, and Mads, he's 13. We don't have a school here, so they travel to the mainland every morning. It's sometimes a problem because of the tide, and sometimes they arrive late in school and sometimes very early, depending on the tide. And so obviously over the year they lose quite a few lessons in school. Because of the tide, it's hard to have a job on the mainland. There's only one person who have a permanent job on the mainland, and he traveled back and forth every day. But again, it's really hard, and he have to sacrifice a lot of quality time with his family to look after his job on the mainland. On the island we have a grocery shop, and the shop also runs the local campsite. We have a restaurant called Klithus Mandø. Also runs camps for school kids, and if you want to throw a big party, they also have a big room and facilities to throw big parties. And we have Denne, who runs a small business called Mandø Event, and they do tours for to see with you travel in horse carriage out to see seals and catch oysters. And myself, here we run this bed and breakfast. There's also farmers on the island. There's currently 3 active farmers here, and they raise sheep and cattle. Everything you do over here, you must plan it in advance, because all the shops are on the mainland, and it's quite a long journey to the mainland. As a rule of thumb, we say that it's high tide for about 6 hours, and we are isolated, cut off from the mainland, and then it's low tide for approximately 6 hours, and you can travel to and from the mainland. It's hard for young people with a family to settle here because of the tide and the travel to and from work in Ribe. But I think maybe pensioners should move over here and experience the qualities and tranquilities of Mandø. That would also maybe enable the home care sector here on the island to grow. There's already, I think, around 50 summer houses here on the island, and a lot of them are owned by pensioners who live on the mainland, and I think we should encourage some of them to spend some of their retirement here on the island instead of living in an apartment in the city.
One of the main issues or problems, according to Mandø, is the transport going from the main island, Jutland, to Mandø. And the transport is on this called Låningsvejen, a road that runs over the Wadden Sea, where you're able to travel by car or bus at low tide. And one of the things that is a major problem for the island is that you can drive there when the weather is good, when there's low tide, there's free access to the island. But at the time with, for instance, storm in the winter season, it can be difficult to get either to the island or off the island. And that means that it's difficult to have a traditional job on the island. It's difficult to run tourism on the island, and having a free access to the island provides other problems in relation to short-staying tourism, meaning that people drive in their own car to the island, spend a few hours on the island, and then drive back. Another problem, according to the village itself, Mandø by, a very small town or village, where all the transport from the cars, from the private cars and the buses and tractor buses that comes onto the island and drive into Mandø by, they park in the town, and there's a main parking area in the central town, part of the village, and that is a problem in relation to giving the tourism or the tourist an impression about that the island is a place where you have peacefulness and it's quiet, and what the tourist experience is a small town or village that has a quite intense traffic. The way the traffic goes into the island is over Låningsvejen and onto the island, and they drive all the way down here and through the village and into the central part of the village. That means if you can get the traffic or less traffic onto the island, we'll have a more peaceful town, and this is the main area where the tourists visit Mandø. Another major task to be solved on the island is that the IT infrastructure is not very up to date. In other parts of Denmark you have cable or wireless connection that has a very high quality, but on Mandø it's very limited, meaning if you have a lot of people using for instance, the internet, the capability on this Wi-Fi connection from the main island Jutland to Mandø goes down, meaning that it is like being back in the 90s. On your way into Mandø is unfortunately a lot of houses that has suffered quite a lot from the last storms, and if the tourism and the impression of the island shall improve, it is necessary to do something about the renewal of some of those old, more or less demolished houses.